Well, good afternoon, everyone. Good morning. My name is Jeannie Borum. I'm part of the corporate team here at Signworld, and I will be the moderator for our webinar today. For those of you who may not have participated or watched a webinar in the past, just a really quick highlight of the format for our session so you understand what to expect. We're going to start off by doing some introductions of our owners who are on the call today as your panelists. They're going to give an overview of their business, their background, and just some key aspects of the companies that they own and operate as a Signworld owner today. And then we're going to go ahead and turn the floor over to our participants, those of you who are considering Signworld as a future path in your careers or your journeys in life. And you're going to be able to ask a single question. We ask you to keep it to one each time. I do see about 8 or 9 participants on the line, so we'll likely only get through one round of questions. So start thinking now about what that one question might be, and each owner will give their own individual response to it. So with that said, let's go ahead and kick it over to our owners to give their introductions. Faye and Don, can I start with you? You're on mute still, Don.
All right, here we go. Slow start. Am I answering the questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. Yep. Very good. Okay, so the name of our business is Signology, and we're located in Southern California, just south of San Diego, near the border. And we opened in 2018. So this is our 5th year. And our building is approximately 2,000 square feet. We've been here for the whole time, and we'll renew our lease for another year. We currently have 3.5 employees, so 3 full-time, 1 part-time, and then Faye and I. So we're at 5, I guess, if you include us. Last year's sales were $750,000, and our biggest customer project, or the single order right now is at around 50,000, but and that's a large sign that's going to be installed soon. And but we've had projects that were $94,000 and took 2 years. So there's a spread there. Prior to joining the sign industry, I was a corporate trainer. I had a team for a company, and I was on the road all the time. And when I was laid off with 950 other people, I decided I didn't want to go back to corporate America. Faye, your background?
And I have a degree in interior design. I was working for one of the longest running firms in Dayton, Ohio when we lived there, but then we moved here and we started our business. So I just joined Signworld.
Very good. Thank you both. Pat.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So I'm Pat O'Neill. My company is called the Carolina Signsmith. We are located in Greensboro, North Carolina. For you who don't know, it's about halfway between Raleigh and Charlotte. We filed articles of organization in October of 2020, launched website in November, and opened our doors February 1st, 2021. So just finished sort of full year 2, or just coming up on full year 2. Facility is about 3,500 square feet ish. Probably 1/3 of that is office and 2/3 is warehouse space. We are 4.5 employees. The half is my son. He's in college, so he works after class and so forth, but I abuse him as much as I possibly can when I need to. We did so my first calendar year, we did just shy of 300,000 in sales. This past year, 2022, we did about 715,000. And the goal for this year, 2023, is to crack that $1 million mark, which is going to be a trick. So biggest project was a $94,000 shopping center job. It was 15 storefronts. They were remodeling the whole place, tore it all down. We actually, about 27, 28 signs we took down and stored, and then replaced about 15 of them. But our biggest customer is a non-sexy version of a customer, which I like the best, which is a construction company building mostly Lilly pharmaceutical factories, and we provide them all of the stuff they're going to throw away. So all of the directional signage, all of the no smoking, no firearms, surveillance, all the signage for the construction site, the PPE stuff, mesh banners around the fencing. I've probably done $250,000 with them in the past 2 years. So, and then my background is I'm a chemist by education. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. Go Dogs. I spent 25 years in corporate as a manufacturing executive. So everything from a plant manager all the way up to a regional vice president of manufacturing for sundry different industries and so forth. Became a corporate refugee in June of 2020 and decided that I just didn't want to do that anymore. So next thing you know, Jeb's millionaire, and I started this thing. So that's where we are.
Very good. Thank you, Pat. And I do see our third owner, Mark. Are you on with us? I don't see you on video yet or unmuted. Mark Hassan. All right, we'll come back to Mark. Jack, you want to go ahead with your introduction quick?
Morning, everybody. I'm Jack Werner. I joined Signworld back in 1995, 27 years ago, 28 years ago, as a Signworld operation. Back then, we were more retail, so I started in 1,100 square feet with one employee. I ended up in 10 years later in 5,000 square feet with 11 employees. My largest customer was a regional developer for Subway, taking care of 200 locations because Subway rebrands their logo every 4 years. That was a $250,000 per year customer year after year. I came out of running a wholesale food manufacturer, food distribution company, logistics, nothing to do with signs. When I sold my operation, I joined our founder, Ken Kin, at the corporate office and kind of a partnership arrangement, finished buying him out in 2014, 8.5 years ago. So when I answer questions today, if it goes more to my experience, I'll answer from there. If it goes more to corporate training and that, I'll answer from that perspective. A note to our owners, we've got a large group of people here, so if you can, keep your answers a little short so we have a chance to get around to everybody.
You just beat what I was going to say, but I'll come back to that in a second. Mark, I do see you're on video. Can you go ahead with your introduction for the group today?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Casson. I am the owner of a company in Metro Atlanta, Georgia, by the name of Big Mouth Signs. We are located in the suburb of Lilburn, which is the northeast corner of Atlanta. I've been in business since 2004. In 2004, I purchased an existing Signworld location that had been in business since 1998. Our facility, we currently have 4,000 square foot in our clean production area. Our project managers are in that area. Our design staff is in that building. Directly across the parking lot, we have our dirty production area. We have a router table, a 20-foot long paint booth, a laser, a engraving machine. And then we also have another facility on the other side of our zip code area. And that is 2,500 square feet. And it has basically a Signworld startup package, but also has a t-shirt printer. So altogether, we're at 10,500 square feet. Total, we have 14 employees. In 2022, we did 2.48 million. Our sales projection for 2023 is 3 million. That may grow to as much as maybe 4.5 million. Our biggest customer is a chain of physical therapy clinics that we ship signs to all over the country. In 2020, before COVID hit, they had 7 brands. They now have 35. And so they kind of drive our business. Background career, I was a regional sales manager for Famous Footwear, and before that, Champ Sports. And for some of you older folks like me, the old Kenny Shoe Company was really where I got my start out of college. I think that's it.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Mark. All right, now that the introductions are behind us, we have approximately 3 minutes and 20 seconds per participant's question. So to Jack's point, we're going to try to get through everybody to have a question, but our owners will ask you to keep it really short and sweet if you're able to. So with that, I'm going to start with who joined us first. And Rochelle, you were the first to join. If you can take yourself off of mute, just tell us where you're from, what city, and go ahead with your question for the group.
Yeah, so it's just me and Braden here today, and we are from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. We live about 10 minutes outside of the city. And we would like to ask Mark, the chain of physiotherapy businesses that you have, or if it's one business, is it one or multiple businesses?
It is, again, it's now 35 brands spread out from Seattle to the coast of Georgia. Okay.
So our question is, that's very impressive, by the way. We just want to know how you got that business.
Back in, let's say, 2006, my son was a very good football player, track athlete, ended up being a Division I sprinter for the University of Georgia. But he had gotten hurt, and my job was to take him to his physical therapy appointments 2 or 3 days a week. And so I'm sitting in the lobby working my cell phone, reading emails, and the technician said to my son, "Hey, is that your dad?" "Yeah, it is." "What does he do?" A year or two after that conversation, that technician is opening his own clinic with this physical therapy company, and he called me and asked if I would give him a quote for a sign. I did, and 16 years later, 14 years later, whatever it is, we've done an awful lot of signs for them.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, thank you.
Rochelle, I'm going to ask the question to the other two. So Faye and Don, how did you acquire your largest customer you have today?
Don had to step away, so I think I'm answering it correctly. He actually is our salesman, but I think our biggest came from word of mouth.
Okay, very good. How about you, Pat? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Faye.
No, that's all. That's good.
But both of them found me via Google search and my website, for starters.
Okay, very good. All right, going on to go ahead, Jack.
My Subway account came from one local franchisee that needed a $50 hours decal on the front window. And I would just ask the questions to who they connected to and where's the regional office. And out of that, a $250,000 per year customer. It's a little job.
Know where it's going to come from. Yeah, it's a wide variety of responses there. Love it. Okay, let's go to our next participant, Jeff Myers. If you can take yourself off the mute, share where you're located, and go ahead with your question for the group today.
I'm Jeff Myers. I'm located on the northwest side of Indianapolis. Mike, I'm very early in the process, so my question is based on where you're at today with your hindsight. What would you consider the most important question or thing that you need to think about as you're looking to go into this business?
So if you were to go back in time, what's the one question that you wished you would have asked or you're glad you did when you were thinking about the business? Let's go with you, Pat.
I think it was financial, right? It was how fast can I ramp this thing? What's reasonable to presume in terms of how where I can get from here? I think the rookie of the year before I bought in, I think did 450. The rookie of the year last year did $1.2 million, something like that. So it was really a question of realistically, what can I expect to see in terms of getting there from here?
Very good. Don and Faye, what was the question that you thought was most important?
I think for us, it always goes back to our location. We're very south, and there's nothing, we can only go 6 miles south to Tijuana. We can go about 7 miles west to the ocean, and then there's nothing east of us. So as I say to everyone, coyotes, fish, and Mexicans don't buy signs from US companies. So it'd have been the location. I would have put us in a more, a location where we could have got 360 degrees of marketing.
Okay, very good. Mark, how about you?
Repeat the question for me, because I'm not sure I'm understanding it quite right.
So going back to before you joined or bought your business, what's the most important question you either thought of or wish you would have thought of before you joined? What was most important to you as a question? That you
I
haven't
think
answered?
the most important question was, I've always been interested in the flexibility of owning a sign shop. You know, there's such a wide range. I know sign owners that did almost nothing except for sandblasted signs. I know other sign company owners that focused on digital printing. And what I've learned after almost 19 years is that part of the control of your business is based on your personality. And what are the things you like to do? And that was something that I wasn't aware of day one, but I figured out over time.
Okay. Jack, anything to add?
Just real quickly, what is my day going to look like? What's my work life going to look like so I can enjoy in business? What's the potential for where I can grow it?
Very good. Okay, let's go to our next participant, Scott Horvath. If you can take yourself off mute, share where you're from for the group, and go ahead with the question.
Yeah, like I said, I'm Scott Horvath, just north of Dallas area. And the question I have deals kind of with your shop capacity. So when you have orders coming in, if you're getting flooded with orders, how do you know that you haven't exceeded what you can do so that you're not over promising to your customer? And then of course you're going to outsource or do whatever else you have to do to meet your commitment that you've made. But how do you know what you can commit?
Okay, great question. Let's start with you, Mark. How do you figure out the capacity and your commit dates to your customer to make sure you can reach them?
Well, I think the vast majority of the Signworld owners use a software called CoreBridge. Some of us use a software called Shopbox. There are some bigger volume operations that have added other software that is project management related software, production related software. And those software programs are very, very good, very advanced in helping you control. Just as an example, if you're building a banner, you input the amount of time that it takes to print that banner and the amount of time it takes to hem and grommet that banner and the amount of time it takes for design work for that banner. So you can control all that. Some people enter all that information. Some people enter none of that information. But the software exists. It's a major help.
Thank you, Mark. Don and Faye, how about you?
So I'd say that this is an ongoing struggle. You're always going to deal with bandwidth of employees, production and installation. And I think it's in the beginning, when you have less work, it's easier to manage. And as the company grows, you grow, your knowledge grows, and your confidence grows. So I think for us, our first month we had $8,000, and right now we're on target to do 83,000 each month. So managing 8,000 versus 83, I think we grew as a company and as individuals to be able to project that. And quite honestly, is you want to take on those big orders and you want to challenge yourself. And when we get overwhelmed and we need help, we outsource the installs. Very
good. Thank you. Pat, how about you?
Yeah, so a couple of answers to this. One, when the phone rings, the answer is yes. Now, what's the question, right? And then you figure it out. Second, I spent 25 years in production operations, manufacturing, things like that. So kind of working on that whole capacity planning and figuring out how to get, square peg in a round hole is just what I've spent my life doing. So I'm not going to pretend it's easy, right? I mean, there are days we've been here till midnight, There's days we sat around here and didn't know what we were going to do this afternoon, and then the phone rang, and then we're booked for 3 days. So it's really a hard question. I think there's software to help you. There's good gut feel on how much you can hammer out. I have a network of outsourced partners that I can call upon. I generally underestimate the amount of time it's going to take to do stuff because I think we're better than we are. And then I have to lean on people to help dig that out, but that's part of the fun. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, any comments?
You know, I think that's the competitive advantage of Signworld is that our competition doesn't have that software. Our competition has not managed projects before, have not understood customer service. So having the software to do it, managing the commitments allows us to compete against the others.
Very good. Good point. Okay, let's go to our next guest. Miles, if you can take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're from and go ahead with your question.
Hey everyone, my name is Miles. I'm in Northern California, a town called Santa Rosa. It's about an hour north of the San Francisco Bay Area. My question, one thing I've been thinking about really is location, kind of to what I heard earlier, right? The population in my town directly is about 150K, 175. And then in more of the metro area around here is probably like 350. So as I'm thinking about this, right, I do have access to some bigger areas, but there's a little bit of distance. So how much did the group think about the area? And is that something that I should really be thinking about? Or will there be opportunities like within other areas throughout the Bay Area that I could, pick and choose from potentially larger projects? Just curious to get the group's thought there.
Okay, well, let's start with Don and Faye since they talked about that this location was one of their challenges.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something you need to look at. And included in that, when we looked at ours, we looked at the building that we wanted, and there wasn't a lot of inventory at the time. So we selected the location that was our number one pick, and we chose it. Later on, did we find out about the marketing? There are ways to get around the marketing with the companies that we work with so that we can get a better range. But the fact of the matter is when I go on a sales call, I'm usually heading north, and San Diego's north, and I think you just got to balance that out. The closer you're to the metro building area, the higher the rent. So I think there's a good balance that you're going to have to take a look at your area. Right now, you probably need a canoe more than anything.
True. Very good. Pat,
right.
How about you? What would you say about location advice?
So I didn't really give it too much thought, right? I mean, there's enough businesses out there. I think, I like the Signworld model where they put you in 3,000 businesses in your contiguous zip code range, right? I think which is smart. But I mean, I live in Greensboro. There's 280,000 people here. There's another 250 about 30 minutes from here in Winston-Salem. There's another 150,000 in High Point, 30 minutes the other direction. So there's 700,000 people within, let's call it 45 minutes of me. I've gone as far as up into Virginia, and depending on the job, I drive back and forth to Charlotte, which is almost an hour and some change. I drive back and forth to Raleigh, which is an hour and change, because that's where my customers are. So yeah, I mean, I didn't really look at it too much because there's enough businesses that I knew that I could float the thing. And then two, it's about, how much competition is there out there? Because my intent is to take the business from those people that aren't performing like I know we can. So.
Very good. Thank you, Pat. Mark, you're in a large metropolitan area with lots of sign companies. Talk about location in Georgia.
Well, my philosophy is maybe a little bit unique. I was told probably 12 years ago or so that there were 650 sign companies in in the city of Atlanta, not the metro area, the city of Atlanta. And when you hear that number, you go, oh my gosh, how am I going to be able to survive? And then you think about it, in Atlanta, there's a Waffle House on every exit off of the interstate. And in some cases, there's one on both directions getting off the interstate. And yet restaurants are able to survive. The sign business is a lot like that. If you feel like, 150,000, I think you mentioned, might not be enough people, you're going to differentiate yourself based on the opportunities. I don't try to win based on price. I try to win based on speed and service. And, you know, again, go back to Waffle House. They're not trying to win on quality. They're not trying to win on having a diverse menu. They do fairly well at cheap food that people are, you know, working early in the morning or are drunk, want to eat.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. Jack, any additional comments?
You know, I'm working with Miles and I wouldn't be talking to him if I didn't think there was enough population, enough market there to be there. We've got people in smaller markets than that, but you've got to do your homework and figure out what the space looks like. But you'll go to San Francisco when it's an important customer, as Pat will go to Charlotte or Raleigh when it's an important customer. You won't go there for the little jobs. You'll go there for the bigger jobs. But as well, Mark is in Atlanta. He's got customers in all 50 states. So your contact base is there. That's not where the limit of your customers are in your businesses.
Absolutely. Good points.
Thanks all.
Okay, let's go to our next guest, Josh Culver. If you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're from, and go ahead with the question for them today.
Hi there, I'm Josh. I'm in Southern Michigan, Hillsdale, very small place, about 10,000 people. I guess my question for you, as you approach your operation, what sorts of triggers in the economy are you watching for to change or adjust the way you're seeking your clients?
Okay. So thinking about recessions, pandemics, whatever it might be, what economic considerations are you having in your business? Pat, let's start with you.
I remember when I was doing this panel thing, Don Conklin said even businesses going out of business need going out of business signs. He also did $250,000 worth of COVID signage at Georgia State University in the greater Atlanta area. So I don't really care. I don't really look at it, right? I'm not worried with it. I think there's businesses that are going to grow regardless of what the economy does. 2021, there were more new businesses started in America than any other year in the history of the country. I'm in a very rapidly growing metropolitan area between Charlotte and Raleigh. And so I don't fuss about it. I got too many other things to kind of get my blood pressure up about than what's going on that I can't control, right? I'm going to keep plugging away and doing the internet marketing thing and doing the networking thing and pounding the pavement and grip and grin and all that sort of thing and just keep plugging along, see what happens.
Very good. Thank you, Pat. Mark, you've been in business in 2008 recession and COVID. Tell us a little bit what you, when you have considerations about what's going on with the economy.
Well, I would echo what Don Conklin said. You know, imagine yourself being a commercial real estate agent. When you're in a downturn, when you're in a recession, you need sign companies that promote that you have space available, and you need sign companies to take down the signs for the tenants that have left. When you are in a boom, then you need sign companies that can quickly and efficiently install new signs for the tenants that have just signed contracts with you. And so the sign business in some ways is like liquor. You know, when COVID hit, you know, liquor stores boomed because everybody's miserable and they're at home. When COVID started to go away and people are out to restaurants and parties and so on and so forth, then they're celebrating. You need liquor in good times and in bad. You need signs in good times and in bad.
Okay, Mark, that's going to go down as one of the best responses to that question. All right, very good. Thank you. Faye and Don, what's your answer to that one?
Well, so it's a tough question. I'm hoping not about the scenarios, the worst ones behind us. I don't want to experience that while being in business again. And at this point in time, I think more of our decisions are not based on what could happen. It's what we need to do today. So as an example, we did an analysis on our outsourcing flat cut signs, and we decided to buy a piece of equipment to do that internally because it raises the profit. So our decisions are not made on the speculation of what could happen next. Our decisions are made on where is our business and what we need to do to grow and prosper.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, any additional comments?
Just one, but before I do, I'm going to start several slideshows that go on while we're having conversations. These don't have any audio, so just visually showing you more about what we do. The first one is going to show you some operations inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like. The second one is going to go to what is a sign, not only what you can make with the original startup equipment, but what you'll outsource. And that'll also show some unusual signs that you might have not even think of, but that just shows the scope of what we do. The third slideshow will show some of our wall of fame, some of the bigger projects that Signworld Owners have done, so you can see how projects can move from simple to more complex. You know, my answer to the question is, the only thing you need to do as far as economy is don't be too stuck in any one customer base or too stuck in any one market, so that you can be diverse and you can pivot. That, you know, in 08, when housing markets went bad, the people who were hurt were strictly in housing. You need to have several different areas so that you can pivot, and from there, don't ever worry about the economy.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. Okay, let's go to our next guest. Iris, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with the question for the group today.
Hi, everybody. I'm a newbie. Just started conversation with everybody, with Jean, I guess. And I actually wanted this question for Mark, because he mentioned dimensional cutters, CNC machines, and stuff like that. I come from the world of building custom environments for trade shows, events, briefing centers, soup to nuts type of approach, where you design, you engineer, you fabricate, you install. Trying to kind of scale down, and want to ask Mark a question is the 3-dimensional space cutting dimensional anything and everything, because everything is a sign, world is a stage, stage is a signage. Was that natural progression? And do you attribute that progression or your capability to your recent growth or most recent growth, since you have taken on the 3-dimensional capabilities? And how much further are you thinking you're going to use that skill into areas that you didn't think existed in the typical small store sign shop?
Okay, so adding equipment, adding capabilities as you scale and grow. Mark?
First of all, really good question. You know, my situation as far as channel letters, which if you don't know are the lighted signs that you typically see at the front of a business that spells out the business name, lights up at night, has a clear plastic face or a colored plastic face. My situation is that I have a very good business partner, a vendor that I use that offers me the opportunity to not have to manufacture that product in-house. I probably sell more channel letters than 99% of the Signworld owners, and I have never built a single one. But at the same time, you know, I've always done lobby signs too. And up until about 3 years ago, I always outsourced lobby signs. We either used a vendor called Gemini, or we used several local people. And, you know, as their business changed, as their lives changed, they became less dependable. And I decided to not send a check for $60,000 to the US government. I used that money to buy my own router table. And it's been a great decision for me. At the same time, I don't intend to ever build a set of channel letters. I don't foresee that ever happening. So I think the point is you have to pick and choose. And what are your resources? And when I say resources, I mean, what are your opportunities with subcontracting in your area? In Atlanta, it's pretty easy to find somebody else. In a town of 35,000, you probably need to learn how to build channel letters.
Very
Mhm.
good. Don and Faye, you just talked about acquiring new equipment. Talk about how you see that increasing your capabilities.
Well, we have more, so by purchasing the equipment, you have more control over the timeline on the turnaround. So if you have a rush job or something like that, you can actually control it much quicker, turn around much quicker. But the profitability, while we were outsourcing it, and we have a great partner, I think the profitability will more than double for us on this particular product. And we continue to look for ways to grow and buy more equipment because we want the control and we want the profitability. So we are really positioning ourselves to, unlike I think it was Mark, we're positioning ourselves to manufacture channel letters and more inside.
Very good. Pat, how about you?
Yeah,
you
so
acquired any additional-
I'm still operating off the initial package, except for, a couple things, table saw, chop saw, panel saw, things like that, hand tools and whatnot. And it really goes to a couple things. I have managed to get lucky and find some really good, really nimble, really inexpensive, really good local folks to help with things like lasers and CNC routers, and even my channel letter guy, he's 15 minutes down the road and is really good at what he does. So, I probably would have bought probably a router by now if I didn't have my guy. Probably certainly a laser I would have bought. I'm not intending to do the channel letter thing just simply because of the UL requirements and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, I'll buy equipment as I need it and as projects pay for it. But I haven't come across a need yet. And again, that's because I went out and found, some really good local partners that do a great job at a great price at a great turnaround time, and I just can't justify it. So,
Very good. Jack, any additional comments?
There's a good outsourced supply network out there. So from day one, everything is deliverable, whether it's made in-house or outsourced. And then over time, as you figure out what product mixes you like better, what types of customer you like better, then bring in the equipment, you can justify keeping you busy.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. All right, let's go to our next participant, Sam Richardson. If you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from for the group, and go ahead with a question.
Hi, everybody. These are great questions, and I keep having to come up with a new one because everybody asks my question. I'm from Central Virginia. And so going back to the question about the area of your business, what specific research, if any, did you do on the existing competition in your market before you started? And if you did, were there any key discoveries that encouraged you to move forward or tweak your own personal business model?
Okay, very good. Let's start with Pat this time. Pat, did you do any research on the competition? Did it tweak where you wanted to locate?
I just tried to figure out which ones I was going to put out of business. I mean, I went and looked, right? I went and Googled it to figure out who was out there. There are 4 other Signworld owners in the greater Triad area. And I went and met with all them, or I at least called them and had a chat. Some went great, some didn't. That's okay. But the specific answer is not really, right? I mean, again, it wasn't my key focus. I think one of the things that Jack said when I was going through this process is, call 5 sign shops in your town, and 4 of them won't answer the phone. And then 3 of those that you leave a message won't call you back. And I found that to be, surprisingly, shockingly true. And to this day, we answer the phone, full stop, end of conversation when it rings. And people are shocked by that. And I get so many comments about thanks for calling me back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why wouldn't I call you back? So it's just about doing the right thing, right? I mean, it's a build it and they will come kind of thing. And so, yeah, no, I don't really care about the competition. All I want to know is how much of their business am I going to take?
Very good. Love it. Mark, how about you? I know you talked a little bit about competition earlier, but any additional thoughts on market research?
No, I kind of operate under the control what you can control. I was aware of, some of the competition, but again, to somewhat echo what Pat said, I get calls every day from people that are just going through Google or whatever, and they're looking up, signs Gwinnett County or signs Lilburn or whatever. And they're asking me, I'm opening up a new store in Lawrenceville and wanted to talk to you about a sign. And so I say, okay, and what kind of business and that sort of thing, ask some questions. And then I say, I tell you what, how about if I stop out there tomorrow? And they say, oh, you do that? And I said, well, yeah, we come out and we do a complimentary, we'll measure your building, we'll take the pictures. We need that for sign permitting purposes anyway. We need that to give you an accurate design. And they say, I've called 4 sign companies and none of them have offered to do that. In fact, they've asked me to take the photos and send them to them. Well, that's opportunity. That's how you become successful in the sign business. And so it really doesn't matter if there's 100 of those people or if there's 1,000 of those people. That's your opportunity. You just need to be the one that doesn't do that.
Well said. Well said. Don and Faye?
Yeah, so in San Diego County, well, 3 years ago in San Diego County, there was 287 sign companies. Probably 8 to 10 of them were Signworld companies within an hour's drive. We're kind of in the same position. We don't really worry about the competition. We answer the phone when it rings. We set up site surveys to what both Pat and Mark said is unique. They love it. We're able to differentiate ourselves, and yeah, we lose deals, but a lot of times we'll be a higher price provider and they'll come back to us and say, hey, look, you're $1,000 more. If you can come down $400, we want to go with you because we like your service. We like we want to work with you and we like the way that you guys operate. So it's really about just us doing what we do well, and the competition, when we lose a job to the competition, it really means that we're holding our profit, and it's okay to lose a job and not discount it to the point where, it's not profitable for us. So while the competition is something you have to deal with, we don't run across the same vendor over and over. We just do our thing, and we close 67% of our work, our quotes.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, any additional comments?
Most sign companies are owned by sign makers, not business people. They're single task focused, worried about the job they're currently working on. So if you show up for the appointment, deliver the quote quickly, deliver the project, there's more business out there than you'll ever have a chance to manage.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jack. Okay, our next guest, Alan Howard. If you can take yourself off of mute, tell the group where you're from and go ahead with the question.
Alan Howard, I'm in Central Florida, the Orlando area. And I guess I've been in corporate life and looking at this point at maybe shifting into business ownership. And that's kind of where my core question lies. I'm still at the point of deciding, do I want to go into be a business owner? And so I think we've heard a lot of the pros from you guys. I'd like some honest feedback from those of you that have been down this journey. What were the speed bumps that you hit? What were the maybe, the things that weren't easy about making the transition into owning your business?
Absolutely. So it's not all wonderful, huh? Is that what you're saying, Alan?
My assumption.
All right. Let's think about your biggest challenges and the bumps that you've gone through. Let's start with our newest owner, Pat. What would you say are some of the biggest challenges you've had?
I'm sick of ramen noodles, right? For one. So no, you gotta have enough capital in the bank to make it, right? I intended to go into this thing without putting a bunch of debt in the way, right? So, you gotta be willing and able to go perhaps 2 years without a paycheck, right? If that's a possibility, or you gotta have the capital to float yourself for 2 years. I did 715,000 ish in top line in 2022 and about 13% net profit. So, having been a $250,000 a year guy in corporate years ago, I'm not anywhere near back to my salary. I wasn't in a position to have to do that. But you just need to prepare for some lean times. There's going to be some, there's not a lot of paychecks in your future, and everybody that works for you will make more money than you for at least the first year, year and a half. So just be prepared for that. That's the biggest challenge, I think.
Very good. Well said. How about you, Don and Faye?
So we started paying ourselves after about 8 months, and that was part of the schedule and the plan. Not enough to cover the home bills, but to supplement our income. And I think the capital is starting out. The capital is very important to operate both your home and your business. And I'll tell you, to be completely honest, you're going to miss your corporate income for a while, and it's going to take a while to build it up. But and then the key piece is building the company to compensate you. And this year, I think we're in pretty good position.
Yeah. I think one of our biggest challenges has still been staffing, because especially with COVID, a lot of people lost the work ethic that is needed as a good employee. And we've struggled with that, which I think we didn't see or understand that would be there for us at the time.
Mm-hmm. Very good. How about you, Mark?
My perspective is a little bit unique in that, again, I purchased an existing business that was doing about $275,000 a year when I bought it. Already had, 1 or 2 really good customers. The problem was that, it was like a 3-person operation, and Atlanta was the fastest growing city in the United States, and Gwinnett County was the fastest growing county. And we did signs for home builders. And the way it would work they would have a marketing meeting amongst themselves on Monday, and Tuesday or Wednesday, they'd place an order for signs that they expected to be done by Friday. And if they didn't get the order to you, then it cut down on your time to build it. And they shrugged their shoulders and still expected them to be done by Friday. And so, it's people always say to me, or said to me at the time, well, Mark, why didn't you diversify? Well, when you're getting more signs ordered on Tuesday than you can build during a normal day, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and deliver on Friday, you don't have time to think about diversifying. So when the housing market crashed, we dropped 65% in sales literally overnight. And it continued for an entire year. We gradually, dug ourselves out of the hole and diversified, and now we're extremely diverse. Even though we have the customer that we did $1.4 million, $1.5 million in mostly channel letters last year. We do LED displays, lobby signs, commercial sign, real estate projects, residential, on and on and on and on. And so it wasn't like I didn't know that I needed to diversify. It was that there really wasn't an easy way to do so. And, long story short, that was a big kick in the head. And, I always tell people it took me 18 years to figure this out. You have guys doing, $1.2 million in their first year. And I just tell them, you're obviously much smarter than I am. So congratulations to you.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. Jack, any comments?
Before this public webinar, Gene, you were hosting a session with existing Signworld owners talking about growing their business. And one of the panelists on there talked about that in corporate life, he was used to executing and having somebody else in strategy. And he had to learn, in being an owner of a business, you got to kind of do both.
Could you spray paint a couple more?
So it's making sure that you're working on the business as well as working on the business. It's learning how to multitask of all the different hats you got to wear at any given time.
Absolutely. Well said. Okay, let's go to our next guest. I hope I pronounce your name correctly. Is it Ade or Ade? A-D-E. I don't see a last name.
Thank you, Jen. It's Ade.
Thank you.
to say a big thank you to this community. I'm based here in Vancouver next to Seattle. And I'd like to echo my last person that spoke, Helen Howard's question in terms of transitioning. If I'm looking to free up my time, is this the right business for me? Because again, it sounds like I might just be better off staying in the corporate world where I currently get close to 200 grand and I do like next to nothing. How do you what's your take on this? Just freeing up your time, quality time.
Yeah, so I'll kind of rephrase the question slightly. So thinking about the first 2 years in your business, how many hours a week do you feel you were placing into the business? And would you say that's more or less than the average of other Signworld owners? Let's start with you first, Mark. If you can think back to the beginning, do you feel like you spent more than 50, 60 hours, or what was your work week like?
Well, you know, first of all, I'm one of those really weird people who work isn't work, it's a hobby. Work is a game to me. It's a game just as much as playing baseball or playing chess or checkers or any other game. I'm the weird guy that drives past the entrance to his own subdivision because he's thinking about a sign project that he's working on or a marketing thing. I do that constantly. So when you say how many hours did you work, geez, you know, 40, how many hours were you working on signs? 60, 65, 70, because I do it at home. I do it at the ball game. It's constant for me, but it's not work. I came from a background where I traveled 20, 21 days a month, and that was work. That was work. I would never want to do that again. And I did it for, geez, too many years. If I need to be home, you know, at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if my wife calls me and says, hey, let's meet for lunch, most of the time I'm going to say Mexican or someplace else. And I schedule myself, to some degree, I schedule my personal life around my business, and to some degree, I schedule my business around my personal life. You're never going to be able to do that in corporate. And the other thing I'll add, and I know this has nothing to do with your question, but I'm going to add it anyway. You know, this kind of fits in with the question earlier about you know, being able to survive, you know, that missing that corporate salary. When to me, corporate salaries are like apartment complexes. When you get to be 50 years old and your employer figures out, you know, I'm paying this dude $150,000 and I could promote as somebody else and pay him $70,000, then you're no longer their friend. And they will let you go. Bye, see ya. The vast majority of Signworld owners are that exact story. With Signworld and with the sign business, you're building equity every single day. So Pat maybe only paid himself $40,000 last year, but Pat's sign company is going to be worth $750,000 by year 4. My valuation on my sign company I had done last fall is 1.74 million. Would have I had 1.74 million in the bank if I continued working for my corporate job? No, I wouldn't have. And so I always put, you know, that's part of why it's a game for me, because eventually there's a payoff.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well said. Thank you, Mark. Pat, how about you? How many hours do you think you put into the business in these early years?
All of them. So, I mean, I spent the last 3 jobs of my life over probably 10 years. I did 3 million miles in an airplane. I ran about 25 factories all over the world. I spent more time in an airplane than I spent anywhere else. Half a dozen like round the world itineraries, and then long days that ended in long nights sitting at the bar of the hotel doing work on my laptop trying to catch up for all the time I spent in an airplane. And I've never worked harder than I have for the last 2 years running this business. And I love every minute of it. I wouldn't go back tomorrow if you paid me. Now I may have to move in with my mother at some point again, but I will do everything I can possibly do to not ever go back to corporate America. Not that I hated it, because I didn't. It gave me a lot of financial stability. I made a lot of friends. I did a lot of things. I'm proud of the career that I built. But I hope to never go back, because this is the most fun I've had in a long time. I was here till 8 o'clock last night. I was here at 7:30 this morning. At 3, I woke up thinking about, oh shit, I forgot to schedule that thing that's due next Thursday. That's a constant thing in my life. So I can tell you, it's going to consume you. And if you're looking for free time, which I think was the ultimate crux of the question by starting this, brother, run with my good luck, because that's not what this is going to get you, at least for a while, right? I mean, my hope is I can play golf more days than not at some point in time, the next decade, but I ain't looking forward to it anytime soon, because this is hard work, but it's the most fun I've had in a long time.
Well said. Thank you, Pat. Don and Faye?
Hey, Jeannie, can I interject something here? Then you could also be Don Conklin, who I think has visited every continent in the world in the last 2 years. So
yep, right.
He's in Antarctica this week, and he's living the good life.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been watching those Facebook posts all week. Definitely quite a cruise for him. Thank you, Mark. Don and Faye, what's your thoughts on the question?
Well, I think much like Mark and Pat, when you first start the business, you're going to be working a lot. And how I looked at it is that when I worked for corporate America, I'd get up super early in the morning, I'd jump on a plane, I'd travel all day. And that evening, I usually didn't go home. I went to another town, or, worked late till 10 o'clock anyway. So for us, when we looked at the corporate America versus this business, it was like, if we're going to invest all that time, we might as well invest in our own business and increase our equity. And then, if all goes as planned, retire more comfortable than we stayed with corporate America. It's a tough decision you're going to have to make, and we all had to make. But for us, we really wanted to develop a business. And the other thing that I was concerned about, that we were concerned about, is at our age, you go work for a company, you work for 18 months, they have a downturn, or they let people go. They usually let go of the higher paid people. So, and I still watch my friends at LinkedIn and corporate America, they're switching jobs like every 18 months. I don't have to deal with that. And I definitely have more to do. So there's always work.
The other thing that I want to add is we now have time for family life like that we didn't before, when he was always on the road. I take off to watch the grandkids or pick them up from school most days. If something is going on at one of the kids' schools, we can both attend, where we never could have done that from corporate America.
Well said. Thank you. Jack, any additional comments?
You got a couple more people still to ask questions, so go to the next one.
Okay, very good. So owners, can you hang on just a couple extra minutes? We saw 3 guests that have not had a chance to ask a question. Just want to make sure you're all good. Thank you so much. All right, let's go to I hope I say this correctly. Is it Teo or Tao?
It's Tao, thank you. So my question is probably similar to something 2 other people have asked, is about suitability and viability of the business. So again, I've worked in the corporate world all my life. I'm in cybersecurity. That's a service. Now this is a product. I'm not a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. I have never had to go and win a job. And I'm moving from a services perspective as an employee, where I know my art through and through, to a product where I know nothing about, it looks like I'll have to go and woo people and win job and learn about the trade. What is the viability of success for me moving from services to product and knowing next to nothing?
Great question. Many of our owners came to this business having no knowledge at all. Go ahead, Don. I see your hand
Yeah,
raised.
so a couple things. When we first started out, we got a call from a prospect that said, do you sell digital displays? And I said, absolutely. And I started asking questions about their project. When I got done with the call, I called Dan at Signworld and I said, what's a digital display and who sells them? Right? And to Pat's comment in the very beginning, the answer to the question is yes. Now what's the question? So your first year, 2 years will be a learning curve and taking on things you don't know about. And I think that's true for any business unless you're going into the business you already know. So I think there's going to be a learning curve. Yes, it's uncomfortable at times. But once you learn it, you don't have to go back and relearn it. And it just comes easier after that lesson has been taught.
And I want to add that
Well said.
there's no place you can go that you don't see signs. Before we got into business, my idea of the signs were, where's the bathroom and where's the gas station? And I really didn't even think about them or look at any beyond that. But now you cannot be in any room, you can't be on the airplane, you can't go anywhere that you're not surrounded by signs everywhere you look. And there's no shortage of a need for signs.
Well said. Thank you, Faye. Pat, what's your thoughts?
Henry Ford said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Right. So if you go into this thing, concerned about, wow, I don't know anything about signs, I'm going to screw this up, blah, blah, blah. You're right. You're going to screw it up. Right. If you go into this thinking, you know what, I'm going to kill it no matter what it is. And by the way, I made one of the interesting questions is people always ask me, well, what did you think you were going to be doing, like specializing in? And is that different? I didn't know what the hell I was getting myself into, right? I mean, same thing with the digital displays. My big construction company client, first call they made to me was, do you make big digital display boards for factories or for construction sites? I said, you betcha. He said, well, how much is one? I said, well, what do you want it to look like? He said, well, I don't know. So I went on the internet, found a bunch of pictures and said, are these the kind of things you're thinking about? And we went there later on a completely different thing. But the point was, I don't know what he's asking for, but I certainly know I can figure it out, right? You're in cybersecurity, you're no dummy, right? So, I mean, this is just a matter of taking what you do well and pivoting it into something else that's it's a little different. So what, right? I mean, I think this really isn't so much a product. This is a project management job. I mean, I spent my life in manufacturing. And by the way, from a whole, I never did that before. We used to make fun of salespeople, right? Because they play golf all the time, go to cocktail parties and fart around with stuff like that. I never been to a networking meeting. I could spell B&I, much less, belong to one. Never met a member of the chamber, none of that. So, but that's what you got to do. So I went and figured it out. But this is the project management gig, right? This is a guy calls, they want something you don't have today. You figure out how to make it, you deliver it, you get some money for it, right? And it's never the same thing twice. It's never going to be the same thing twice. If you fall into a thing where you're hammering out 72,000 widgets an hour, like I did for most of my career, good for you, but I don't want any more of that, right? So, I mean, again, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Either way.
Very good. Thank you, Pat. Mark, your thoughts?
I would tell you again, kind of similar to what Pat just said. If you're in cybersecurity, then you have absolutely no reason to be scared of getting into signs. Sign business is not rocket science. Even people like me can be successful at it. And so, what I will tell you about the sign business is it's about establishing relationships. And I'm guessing that in the cybersecurity business, you have to do the same thing. The sign business is about managing people. And that's not just your employees, that's your customers, that's your vendors, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I'm guessing that the cybersecurity business is the same way. I think also that You know, too often, my background was in shoes. I never built a shoe. I managed teams that sold shoes and sold sporting goods. You know, there are, Don Conklin was in, I think he worked for what, Jack, AT&T or somebody like that. Super successful guy. Dick Cassidy's only been around for less than 3 years. He's knocking the socks off of it. He wasn't in manufacturing either. And some of the most successful people in Signworld weren't. Probably many of the most successful people in Signworld. So don't be scared about that. Be confident in the abilities that got you where you are today, and look for the things that apply, that are applicable to owning a sign company. I think you're going to be surprised.
Thank you, Mark.
Very good. Yes, thank you. Let's go on to our next guest, SM Initials. If you can come off mute, share what your name is, and go ahead with your question.
Jeannie, this is Sheila. I'm good. I think I'm here to listen.
Okay.
I think every one of these conversations is great. So I will give my time to somebody else who has not had the opportunity. Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's very good to see you as well, Sheila. Thank you for joining today. All right, our last guest, Frank Diaz. If you can take yourself off of mute and give your question for the group.
Hello, everybody. Same as the previous. I won't take anybody's time. I'm a little bit further into the, into the research of this. So thank you for all your answers. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I believe Frank was at a Discovery Day, wasn't he, Jack?
Both Frank and Sheila was. So my question, both of them quickly, for the rest of the people that are here, know that Discovery Day is a big part of the process. How did, Frank first and then Sheila, how did Discovery Day help you understand who we are better?
I can go. So Discovery Day for me was eye-opening. I went in not really knowing what the sign business is. I'm out of Long Beach, California, so it was pretty close to me. So that made it fun. But I come from corporate world. Electrical engineering is my background. Fiber communication. So, building signs and making signs, my career, it would be a change. But after listening to a lot of owners, coming or being in the same scenario, being in corporate and then transitioning to business ownership, that really helped me understand what my next steps should be. So I really like Discovery Day.
Thank you, Frank.
Yeah,
Sheila?
I can. I think for me, I work with people, relationships, trustworthy, stuff like that. So I was very impressed with how different sign owners, know each other, collaborate, like the community feeling that I got out of the Discovery Day, and everything else Frank said is very true. But to me, that was a big part that I didn't feel I'm going to be this lone, warrior trying to get something going. I think that was very important.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you, Sheila. All right. Well, with that, I do want to give our owners the opportunity to say thank you so much for participating and going over on time. We really appreciate you participating and sharing your thoughts and perspectives. So Pat, Faye, Don, and Mark, thank you very, very much. We appreciate you.
My pleasure.
To our participants,
Thank you.
Thanks for joining
Good luck,
us
everyone.
today. Participants, we appreciate you joining in today, and we look forward to those future conversations with you as you continue down this path to make the decision if this is the right chapter for you in the next phase in your life. So thank you very much for joining today. Hope everyone has a great rest of your Wednesday.
Best of luck, everybody.
Thank you.